Hi folks, welcome back. So today we've got a request in from Patreon Royalty, Home Gnome. So he sent me a message here. I know very little about drumming. Parenthesis, I've learned somewhat from reactions, but drummer reactors and people in general say she's one of the best. Who? She can play anything but is mostly in jazzy stuff. Would you welcome a reaction request in that area? Yes, I would. So this is obviously a conversation that we've had prior. I don't think I've uploaded any drumming videos on YouTube. Don't think so. Maybe something on Instagram. Can't remember. But yeah, I do drum. I used to play a lot of drums when I was in my teens, and I would have been a better drummer than guitarist back then. But guitar sort of took over. I do still play a bit. I have an electronic kit here, like just self-taught. But yeah, so I'm into drummers. Love all instruments. Anyway, so I said yes, and then he followed that up with, okay, cool, in that case, I'll make my first request. Senri has been in because he's got two requests, you see. Senri has been in various bands / projects. This is Senri Kawaguchi Triangle, quote unquote, Wupatki, and then there's a link. And he knows that, I don't do any research, any prior research going into something I've never heard before. For better or worse, that's the idea. The element of surprise. So the format of this video is we're going to listen to the song right through uninterrupted, and I'll go back and sort of give you sort of further thoughts, maybe break down some of it, whatever I can. Not on drums today, but with words. Anyway, let's get going. Go. Now we're talking. That's the stuff. So obviously, that's her name, and it's a triangle. It's the band, but and this was requested as sort of like a drumming sort of video, but I mean it's common with these sort of jazz fusion groups to maybe have like a leader, if you like. Like makes me think of Hiromi. She's the pianist, but it's a band effort, so like everybody's just contributing just as much as far as I'm concerned. Like, so I'm listening to the drumming is a spectacle, but so are the keyboards and the bass. So I hear it all as a piece of music more than anything, even though there was sort of quite a lengthy drum solo in the song. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, we have a lot to owe to Chick Corea, Lenny White, Stanley Clarke, and Al Di Meola. Return to Forever. This sends me way back. My dad used to play, I think I've talked about this in other videos, but I grew up in a house where, we listened to like everything, all sorts of genres, as long as it was good. That's the way it goes. There's only two genres in music: good music, bad music. So we listened to good music. So it worked. But yeah, grew up with a lot of stuff. I actually, speaking about drums, actually, that's one of the main things I used to drum along to whenever I was sort of in my teenage years. Sort of memories of coming home from school, abandoning the school bag on the floor, not even bothering to take my school uniform off, going straight to the drums, putting on Return to Forever and playing along. Probably not that great, but playing along to the Duel of the Jester and the Tyrant. That was my favourite one. And the Valley of the Pharaoh Kings or whatever it's called. Like, but yeah, a massive Return to Forever fan, and this Return to Forever are deeply ingrained in this. But even bands like Weather Report, definitely hearing that, especially with the bass. It's hard to ignore the likes of Jaco Pastorius. You can hear it, because there were sort of these eminent figures in sort of jazz fusion. There was another band, Charisma, reminded me of them a little bit as well at times. Quite a lot of the songs seem to be just in 4/4, lots of syncopation, but that ostinato motif at the beginning was definitely playing around with the time signatures. So let's go back and run this through and sort of maybe stop and awe a little bit at different moments. But the drumming, I guess because of her age, those other guys are obviously considerably older than her. So you kind of, it's almost like you sort of take it for granted. If you've been playing for a long time, you're bound to be good. And obviously she's still very young by the looks of her. And so the drumming talent, she's up there. She's definitely in the world elite with, so she just has to, maybe there is a whole catalogue here that I'm just not familiar with, because this is my first time hearing of her. But that's going back to 2017, Jazz Japan Award. So she's obviously a big deal in Japan. Philippe Seiss. Oh, Philippe Seiss. Seiss, that name rings a bell for some reason. Armand Sabaleko. Don't recognize the name. But yeah, no, what I was going to say is time will tell, because there's a difference between, I think, there's a difference between a great performer, excuse me, which is fantastic on its own, but then having a great performer that contributes musically, compositionally to the world, with the catalogue, But I mean, obviously, she's been on the go for a while. So anyway, the reason I was saying that is so that the same way that I'm sort of reeling off names from the 70s and stuff that these guys they've stuck around. They're in the sort of lexicon of talking about this stuff that I kind of get the impression that she's going to be talked about in 50 years' time, So that's the main thing. She seems like the real deal, The drumming's flawless, amazing. Right, should we go back and listen to it again? Yes, let's do it. Please consider taking a moment to check out my other channel, JW Soundworks, where you will find unique cover song performances, beautifully composed piano arrangements. And all of my self-composed original music. Go. Well, it's helpful to have the camera on the key so I can see that it's based around A, you know. So that's a very, that's like a pentatonic. A minor, you know. I guess you could be in C. But I think it's because the root note seems to be on the A. So that's obviously the ostinato, but the time signature is moving a bit. So let me see if I can get this right. Yeah, it's the same each time. Dun, 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 dun. So dun, dun. There's different ways that you can count it. Let me see. Might be inclined to count it as a bar of 4 and then a bar of 5/8, I think. 1, 2, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I think that's the time signature. So it just depends on how you feel the groove. I feel this dun 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 dun. So that's what's making me feel of the sort of crotchet notes. You know, there's different ways of how you can sort of play along to this. You might assume that because the time signature seems complicated, 4/4, 5/8, that your brain's going to be going 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down, all this kind of stuff. Maybe some people are out there kind of thinking like that, and maybe even just to learn a riff or whatever, you might do that. But I think from my experience, whenever I'm playing, I'm used to sort of proggy kind of stuff and writing that and being in weird time signatures. It's more a feel. You know, so you don't necessarily have to get bogged down in the actual sort of mathematics of it, but I'm just trying to explain what's going on, of course. But that's how I would feel it. That's why you end up with this sort of short, almost like it hasn't completed kind of feel, you know, comes in early again. I think that's a time signature, but we better move on. Now, that motif, as I think it touched on originally, was it's played throughout the song, obviously, that ostinato. Not constantly, but it is reintroduced at different times. But crucially with different time signatures. And there's definitely a point where that's being played over just straight 4/4. Quite a lot of the song, certainly in the second half, is mainly 4/4 time. The unusual time signatures mainly at the start. So there you go. So yeah, as I said about the pentatonic thing, A, C, D, E, G. Those are the notes from your pentatonic scale. So that's kind of roughly the key we're in, okay? And of course, it's on a keyboard, but, you know, it sounds like is it a vibraphone or a marimba? Is there a slight metallic sound off that, or is it more wood? What do you think? What are your thoughts? I think it's maybe a marimba. Yeah, it's wooden sort of sounding in it. Notice when the bass comes in, he's not mimicking that. It'd be so easy just to double up on that, but he's playing like a sort of descending line. As the keyboards are rising, you can hear he's up high and he's coming down. So it's a nice sort of counterpoint to the main riff. I guess because of the backbeat on the drums, that's another thing. It makes me feel it like that's the beat. Dun, 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 tsh. And the fills are sort of done through the 5/8 part of the time signature. I've really locked into that. I hope I'm right on that. I don't want to sort of interrupt the flow of the video by sort of really breaking it down, under a microscope. But that's my sort of instinct. Is it's that? I think it is 5/8. Yeah, 4/4 5/8. No, he's going to he's going to embellish that, but there's the ostinato. You can hear it's not strict. He's going to play around with those notes as the keyboards then go into into jazz chords. Great. Together stabs. So yeah, there's the obvious Chick Corea comparison. Whenever you got this sort of music with a sort of synth lead line, it just immediately makes me think of Chick Corea, which is no bad thing. He's the GOAT. I actually have some Chick Corea playthroughs or uploads on my other channel, JW Piano Works, for any of you out there that want to see some of that. Definitely, yeah. I'm a big influence, my keyboard playing, Big Chick Corea fan. Another thing about this, just about this kind of music in general, it's obviously let's say it's for music aficionados, isn't it, really? Because there's high level stuff going on here. It's not going to be for the general public. But I think that despite the sort of virtuosity and dazzling sort of nature of the music, do you notice how they're really sort of laying into the sort of repetition of the melodic hooks and stuff like that? So I would say that if you played this to somebody who's never really listened to this kind of style of music, there's definitely stuff for them to grab onto there, and I think it's a nice mix. It's not just sort of way out there, sort of experimental jazz. It's actually got quite sort of straightforward foundations, but being played by like insanely, high-skilled cats. Same sort of motifs. So we're in 4/4 now. Makes sense. The 5/8 was cool earlier on, but now to have it in 4/4 gives space for that second half. Dun, 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 dun. Space for the drummer. Looking forward to that bit. That's his favorite part of the song. Like, look how happy he is, Sheriff. Oh yeah. The thing that's really standing out to me, I have to say, in the drums, I mean, the technicality is off the charts. To be playing at this level, so busy. It's so busy, and you're not hearing just even the slightest little thing that's a bit late on the cymbal or anything. It's just, it's immaculate. So you kind of take that for granted once you've heard it. You're like, yeah. It's like being in a car with somebody who drives fast, but they're a good fast driver. At first, you're like, oh, sorry. But, you can kind of trust this person knows how to do this at high speed. They know what they're doing. Anyway, the thing that's really standing out to me now is how expressive her fills and her playing is so dynamic. So dynamic. Yeah, there's the F. We're down on the E. That's a lovely shift. There was another one of those somewhere. I remember that one standing out to me, but I think there's another chord change later on. It was like, oh. Oh, that's it. Maybe like a D minor 7. There's probably all sorts of added notes to that. But yeah, that was those two. So bass guitar being played up on the high on the neck with lots of sort of vibrato and stuff, and that's such an expressive instrument. You know, forgive me guys, but you can't help but listen to this and think of Jaco Pastorius. The only thing it's missing is the fretless bass and the hat. So much feel. I've almost got like a Vangelis kind of synthscape behind that, isn't it? Very Blade Runner. Just listen to the sort of patch in that. That makes me think of Vangelis. I know I'm pausing a lot, but that's what I do in this half of the video, like, right? So, he took a scratch plate off. I wonder why he took a scratch plate off. See all the holes. Anyway, what was I going to say? Yes, that's another high sign. You know, a sign of like, you know, high musicality in my books, which is, you know, you get these players and they can do anything basically. Any thought comes into their head, they've got the technicality to back it up. So when you get to the part where the bassist, where it's all calm, listen to how controlled the drums are. You know, she's like, okay, I'm stepping back. I'm just here to be the back. You know, so that's sort of switching roles, not stepping on anyone's toes. Love it. So even in the sort of more percussive moments, the guy has a very, I was going to say a light touch. It's not so much light, but it's not aggressive. You know, if I think of Stanley Clarke, whenever he gets to those, something about the bass in Return to Forever is always very aggressive, you know, popping out and very snappy, and that's great. But this is very, very dynamic, more dynamic in my opinion, and it's so well phrased. You know, if I sort of take an improvised run, this is going to be garbage. But just to demonstrate what I mean about the phrasing, so it's not just say that. It's like so that sort of pushing in the middle and pulling. That's sort of my understanding of that has really come from classical training on the piano. It's how to shape a melody, you know. There's an animal in the room with me, just in case you're wondering. We're not haunted. But yeah, beautiful expression in the bass playing. Loves his dissonant notes, laying into them. Those little runs actually make me think a little bit of Tal Wilkenfeld as well. Those sort of, it's very like her sort of style when she's improvising. melodic. You know, one of the things that did occur to me when I was listening to it through is, where's the guitarist? You know, you kind of expect there to be a lead guitar somewhere. But when you hear this guy, he's up on the top of the neck. Maybe that's why there's no guitarist. Maybe you don't need one. Incredible, really, to think there's only 3 people on stage. The sound is so full. Right, there we go. So there's big Latin American music vibes there. You know, like a rumba kind of vibe in it. Again, can't help but think of Chick and Return to Forever. They were at the 2 chords and then a D minor, isn't it? Sort of playing around, so like a E major, F major, and a D minor. It's very Latin vibes. Yeah. Love that groove. Placement of the snare. Brilliant. So groovy, this. Oh, drum solo. You know, the thing is, it's going to sound daft, like, but as somebody who does dabble a bit in drums, like, you know, I'm nowhere near this level, like, but I like to play a wee bit, right? That left foot is the thing that impresses me the most. To outsource that, that's just got its own brain, you know, the flash sort of dazzly stuff, you can kind of get, I feel like that's kind of easier to get that, you know, all that, to keep this sort of firmly rooted and not be disturbed by everything else. It takes immense skill. See what I mean with that foot? Also, the drum kits, listen to those toms, the way they're tuned. That sounds, the toms sound, well, the whole kit sounds amazing, but those toms, so balanced the whole way around. Amazes me that there are people in the audience. I'm not judging anybody. These guys sitting here and they're like this. I'm sure they're enjoying it. Maybe, you know, their big toe could be moving in their shoe, like you can't see it. Pretty sure if I was there, I would be sort of making a spectacle of myself, you know. You know, I'd be asked to leave probably. That's ridiculous. Oh. again to that, it's not quite verse, chorus, sure it's not, but there's definitely, you hear the sort of structure of the song there with those motifs being repeated. Yes. I have to send this one to my brother. He's gonna love this. My dad as well. Superb request, man. Superb request. Glad you sent me this. You guys use our pen. You can request whatever you want. No judgment on my part. I'll, listen and react to whatever it is you ask me to. I have to say, my favorite ones are sort of when you mix it up a bit, throw in a few sort of curveballs there, love it. So really, really enjoyed this. Super stuff. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Consider heading over to Patreon and getting in with the cool kids and get some requests in or whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. If you're passionate about piano, whether as a player or listener, or if you're considering online lessons or masterclasses, please visit my YouTube channel, JW Piano Works. There you'll discover a wealth of piano performances with many more to come. Based on demand, I'll also be introducing video tutorials for piano pieces. Thank you.